We've just gotten the news. It is still breaking news. The death of Diego Armando Maradona at the age of 60 in the suburbs of Buenos Aires of an apparent heart attack. Well, joining us now, Firas Alechi, who works at Eurosport. Thanks for being with us. We just heard Igor Mladenovic say that because Pele had played in a different era, that Maradona was, in a sense, the first global soccer superstar. I would argue that point, but your thoughts on what Maradona's place is in the pantheon?
I mean, it's a bit unfair to Pele, where there was no cameras back in the time. But for Maradona, obviously he was the greatest of his era. That goes without any questions. But because football changes and the way we play changes and tactics changes, you can't compare players from different eras. But definitely Maradona, the way he played, what he brought to football. The man won the World Cup all by himself, in '86. And so the performances and the way he scored that goal against England, there's so much that this guy brought to the world of football, to succeed in Napoli in that way. And we're talking about the late 80s to the 90s, where he scored 81 goals with Napoli. That is not an easy figure.
This was in the days of low-scoring games.
We're talking about a very heavy ball back in the day, where you don't play like now. It's tactics, and football was not as fast as it is today. So what he did at the time was revolutionary. He really brought a new style, a new way of thinking, and a new way of performing on the pitch. So that was quite something at the time. But to compare it to Lionel Messi now or Pele back in the day, it's quite unfair to any of the three players. But Maradona is something, and he is, without question, the greatest of his era.
So, apologies, Selena. We are going to talk about that game now.
Of course. I mean, obviously, I think that those two goals in itself really sums up his whole career. Dazzling, but also causing controversy at the same time.
Just to remind our viewers, for those who don't know, this is the World Cup 1986, and he puts one past Peter Shilton.
Yes, the first one, Hand of God, the famous Hand of God. I was not alive at this time, but I still know about it. Any England fan will know about this infamous Hand of God. It has been passed down from generation for generation. Within the same game, obviously, after his Hand of God putting his fisting in the first goal, he then obviously scores arguably one of the goals of the century with that amazing dribble. So this game in itself really sums up his career, really. Dazzling and controversial at the same time.
That second goal, he runs half the pitch.
Now, what he did in that second goal is it's like Back to the Future. He really brought football from the future to the 80s. That's not something you do back then and back at the time. He single-handedly beat all of the English defenders and just ended with the ball in the net. It was like unbelievable. Still, you watch it now and you're in disbelief that he actually managed to do that. And again, I remember, technically, the ball was too heavy for him to actually carry it all that way with that speed, with that accuracy, and to beat so many defenders in so many challenges. Yeah, that's fiction.
He had that stocky build where he was slow center of gravity. The ball seemed to stick to his foot.
You're waiting for the green screen and for the director to come out and say it's all fiction. It's not real, because that goal is surreal. That's unbelievable.